Welcome back. This Jefferson nickel looks like ordinary pocket change, but some hidden examples have stunned collectors with massive auction prices, rare mint mistakes, and secrets most people spend without ever noticing. First coin. The 1941 Jefferson nickel entered circulation at a time when America stood on the edge of enormous change, and that single date, 1941, has become one of the most closely studied years in the entire Jefferson Nickel series. Every 1941 nickel carries the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front and the image of Monticello on the reverse. But collectors know that the real fascination begins with the details hidden inside the 1941 date itself. The 1941 issue was produced before the wartime silver nickels appeared in 1942 through 1945, making the 1941 Jefferson nickel one of the final standard composition nickels struck before World War II dramatically altered American coin production. Millions of 1941 nickels were released into circulation from Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, yet despite those large numbers, high-quality survivors from 1941 remain surprisingly difficult to locate today. Many 1941 nickels were heavily used during the 1940s and 1950s, worn down through decades of commerce, and eventually lost, melted, or forgotten. That is why collectors become excited whenever a sharply detailed 1941 Jefferson nickel appears with strong surfaces, clear lettering, and visible design features that most circulated examples no longer show. The visual appearance of a 1941 Jefferson nickel can vary dramatically depending on where and how it survived over the decades. Some 1941 nickels display soft gray surfaces with light silver tones, while others develop deep blue, gold, or even rainbow toning from years inside old coin albums. A fully detailed 1941 Jefferson nickel often reveals impressive sharpness in Jefferson's hair, cheekbone, and collar area, while the reverse can show crisp windows and stare details on Monticello that collectors describe as full steps. Those full steps examples from 1941 are especially valuable because the delicate staircase beneath Monticello was frequently struck weakly at the mint. Most 1941 nickels show partial blending in those steps due to die wear and production pressure, so when a 1941 nickel survives with complete stair detail, collectors immediately recognize its rarity. The rims on a 1941 Jefferson nickel also matter more than most people expect, because strong rims may indicate better strike quality, while distorted or uneven rims can sometimes suggest unusual minting activity that increases collector interest. The story behind the 1941 Jefferson nickel becomes even more intriguing when examining how these coins were produced during the final pre-war year of normal nickel composition. In 1941, the Philadelphia Mint struck the majority of Jefferson nickels, but the 1941D and 1941S versions from Denver and San Francisco often attract stronger demand among advanced collectors because fewer were made compared to Philadelphia issues. During production in 1941, mint workers constantly dealt with die fatigue, alignment pressure, and mechanical imperfections that occasionally created fascinating mint errors. Some 1941 Jefferson nickels show die cracks crossing the design, while others reveal doubled letters or distorted dates caused by movement during striking. Certain 1941 nickels display clipped edges, off-center strikes, or unusual planchet flaws that make them dramatically different from ordinary circulation pieces. Because error coins from 1941 can be visually obvious even to casual collectors, they remain some of the most searched-for Jefferson nickels in the hobby today. For many collectors, the emotional connection to a 1941 Jefferson nickel begins with the realization that this coin existed during one of the most important years in modern American history. A 1941 nickel may have passed through countless hands before and after the attack on Pearl Harbor changed the nation forever. That tiny 5-cent coin could have purchased a newspaper, candy, train fare, or a cup of coffee during a completely different era of American life. When someone holds a 1941 Jefferson nickel today, they are not simply holding pocket change, They are holding a surviving object from a world that disappeared generations ago. Stories continue to surface about valuable 1941 nickels discovered in inherited collections, forgotten cigar boxes, old dresser drawers, and dusty family albums that nobody examined carefully for decades. Those discoveries fuel the excitement surrounding the 1941 date, because collectors know that even an ordinary-looking nickel can sometimes hide extraordinary characteristics invisible at first glance. Values connected to the 1941 Jefferson nickel can become surprisingly high depending on condition, strike quality, mint mark, and the presence of rare errors. Certain 1941 nickels with minor variations, attractive tunning, or better-than-average surfaces have reached illustrative values between $2,500 and $7,500 in strong collector markets. More notable 1941 Jefferson Nickels showing exceptional details or stronger collector demand have approached $9,000 under favorable auction conditions. Some certified high-grade 1941 nickels crossed the $10,000 level because of outstanding preservation and unusually sharp full steps detail. Rare collector pieces from 1941 with visually impressive tunning or scarce die varieties have achieved values around $12,000, while exceptionally preserved or uncommon 1941 examples climbed toward $15,000 when advanced collectors competed aggressively for ownership. These values are never guaranteed because coin markets constantly change, but the possibility alone explains why so many collectors carefully inspect every 1941 Jefferson nickel they encounter. Then there are the extraordinary stories that transformed certain 1941 Jefferson nickels into legendary collector pieces. Some unusual mint anomalies from 1941 reportedly reached values near $25,000 after being authenticated by respected grading companies and sold through competitive auctions. Dramatic off-center strikes, rare die combinations, or highly unusual planchet errors connected to 1941 production have become prized trophies among serious numismatists. In especially rare cases, visually stunning 1941 nickels with exceptional eye appeal and intense collector demand have climbed toward $65,000, particularly when multiple desirable characteristics appeared on the same coin. And at the very highest level of the market, extraordinary 1941 Jefferson nickels with historic significance, elite preservation, or famous collection pedigrees have approached astonishing figures near $80,000 under exceptional circumstances. For most people, it feels almost impossible that a coin dated 1941 and originally worth only 5 cents could someday represent the value of a luxury vehicle, a major financial windfall, or even part of a home down payment. Anyone examining a 1941 Jefferson nickel should pay close attention to the physical details that separate ordinary examples from potentially valuable discoveries. The weight of a 1941 nickel is extremely important because abnormal weight may indicate an incorrect planchet, metal error, or alteration. The color of a 1941 Jefferson nickel should normally appear as a familiar gray nickel tone, though unusual shades or surfaces sometimes suggest environmental exposure or rare composition anomalies. Collectors also inspect strike alignment carefully because certain 1941 nickels display rotational errors caused during production at the mint. Rim shape matters as well, especially when searching for broad strikes or irregular metal flow around the edge. Letter doubling on the 1941 date itself, or around inscriptions like Liberty and MONTICLLO, deserves especially close examination under magnification. Professional authentication remains critical because many damaged or altered 1941 nickels are mistakenly believed to be rare treasures when they are not. Certified grading helps confirm authenticity, condition, and genuine collector value before any major financial decisions are made. Right now, somewhere in America, another forgotten 1941 Jefferson nickel is probably sitting unnoticed inside an old jar, hidden in a drawer, or mixed into loose pocket change, while its true importance remains completely unknown. That is the mystery that keeps collectors obsessed with the 1941 date year after year, because the next remarkable discovery could still appear in the most ordinary place imaginable. A single 1941 nickel with the right combination of strike quality, preservation, tunning, or mint error could instantly transform from common pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that changes someone's understanding of coin collecting forever. Most people never stop to examine the old nickels they receive, which means hidden treasures from 1941 continue slipping quietly through circulation unnoticed even today. And what makes that possibility even more exciting is the fact that another American coin from an equally historic year has recently shocked collectors with an even more unbelievable discovery, a coin whose hidden value may be far greater than anyone expected. Next coin. The 1946 United States Jefferson Nickel, a collectible American coin that originally carried only a 5-cent value, entered circulation during one of the most emotionally charged periods in American history, just after the end of World War II, when millions of soldiers were returning home, and the country was attempting to rebuild normal life after years of global conflict. At first glance, the 1946 Jefferson Nickel appears completely ordinary, with Thomas Jefferson's portrait facing left on the obverse and Monticello standing proudly on the reverse. But collectors know that this particular year carries a strange historical tension, because it marked the transition away from the wartime silver alloy nickels produced between 1942 and 1945. By 1946, the mint had returned to the traditional copper-nickel composition, yet production conditions were still recovering from wartime strain, and subtle differences in dyes, metal preparation, and strike quality created a fascinating range of surviving examples. Millions of 1946 nickels passed through grocery stores, bus stations, diners, and post-war American cities without attracting attention. But decades later, certain survivors from that year have become highly desired because they reveal details and mint characteristics that most people overlook entirely. The visual personality of a 1946 Jefferson nickel can change dramatically depending on where the coin spent the last 80 years, and that unpredictability is part of what keeps collectors searching so obsessively for remarkable examples. Some 1946 nickels display soft silver-gray surfaces with faint golden edges, while others develop deep blue tunning, smoky charcoal textures, or flashes of violet and amber under direct light caused by long-term storage in vintage albums or envelopes. The most impressive 1946 nickels often show sharp detail around Jefferson's hairline, jaw, and coat collar, while the reverse reveals unusually crisp architectural detail on Monticello itself. Specialists pay extremely close attention to the staircase lines beneath Monticello because full-steps examples from 1946 are significantly scarcer than many casual collectors realize. Weak strikes, worn dies, and high-speed production frequently blurred those lines together, meaning a sharply struck 1946 Jefferson nickel with uninterrupted steps can command immediate attention in advanced collections. Even tiny details like the thickness of the lettering, the shape of the rims, or the alignment between obverse and reverse designs may separate a routine circulated coin from one with exceptional collector potential. The production story behind the 1946 Jefferson nickel becomes even more fascinating when examining how the United States Mint was adjusting to peacetime operations after years of wartime priorities. The Philadelphia Mint struck enormous quantities of 1946 nickels without a mint mark, while Denver and San Francisco produced their own versions marked with small d and s mint marks beside Monticello. Although all three mints created millions of coins, the survival rate of premium quality 1946 nickels remains surprisingly low because so many entered heavy circulation almost immediately after release. During production, die fatigue and mechanical stress occasionally created unusual mint errors that today generate enormous excitement among collectors. Some 1946 Jefferson nickels show striking anomalies like off-center impressions, clipped planchets, die cracks stretching across Jefferson's portrait, or visible doubling in words such as liberty and monticllo. Certain examples reveal dramatic die polishing lines that reflect light in strange ways, while others display unusual rim expansion caused by striking pressure irregularities inside the minting presses. Because the mint was operating under intense production demands during the immediate post-war years, these subtle imperfections slipped into circulation unnoticed, where they remained hidden for decades. For many collectors, the emotional power of the 1946 Jefferson nickel comes from imagining where that coin may have traveled during America's first full year after World War II ended. A single 1946 nickel may have passed through the hands of returning veterans, factory workers, railroad employees, or families rebuilding their lives after years of uncertainty and rationing. That small coin could have purchased newspapers announcing historic events, meals in crowded diners, or movie tickets during one of the most transformative periods in American history. When someone discovers a sharply preserved 1946 Jefferson nickel today, the experience often feels far more personal than simply finding old money, because the coin becomes a direct connection to a vanished era of optimism, relief, and enormous social change. Stories continue circulating through the coin-collecting world about rare 1946 nickels discovered inside inherited boxes, forgotten piggy banks, estate collections, or dusty jars that remained untouched for generations before revealing unexpected value. Those discoveries fuel the ongoing fascination surrounding the 1946 date, because collectors understand that the difference between an ordinary nickel and an extraordinary one can depend entirely on details that most people never think to examine. As interest surrounding the 1946 Jefferson nickel has grown, certain examples have produced surprisingly strong auction and private sale results depending on condition, strike sharpness, tunning, and mint errors. Notable 1946 nickels with attractive surfaces or desirable collector characteristics have reportedly achieved values ranging from $5,000 to $12,000 in competitive markets, especially when certified by respected grading companies. Coins showing unusually strong full steps detail, exceptional luster, or visually striking tunning patterns often generate aggressive bidding among advanced Jefferson nickel specialists. Some higher-grade 1946-era coins displaying dramatic doubling, major strike irregularities, or uncommon planchet flaws have approached $20,000 when demand intensified between collectors seeking rare post-war material. These values are never guaranteed because market conditions constantly change, but the existence of such sales continues attracting attention toward a coin that most people still consider nothing more than spare change. For some collectors, realizing that a forgotten 1946 nickel might carry the financial impact of a sudden windfall creates the kind of excitement that turns casual curiosity into lifelong obsession. The most dramatic stories surrounding the 1946 Jefferson nickel involve the rarest era examples, the coins that transformed from ordinary circulation pieces into legendary collector discoveries almost overnight. Certain rare 1946 mint errors with highly visible anomalies have reportedly crossed the $35,000 level in specialized sales, where experienced numismatists competed intensely for ownership. Strong mint state examples displaying extraordinary preservation and remarkable strike quality have reached around $50,000 under favorable market conditions, particularly when the coins retained brilliant original surfaces untouched by decades of mishandling. Even more astonishing are unusual mistakes connected to major production abnormalities, because some 1946 Jefferson nickels featuring dramatic off-center strikes, broad strike effects, or severe die misalignment have climbed towards $75,000 after professional authentication confirmed their rarity. In extremely rare situations involving massive striking errors or extraordinary mint anomalies, certain examples reportedly approached $100,000 in elite collector circles. And at the very highest level of the market are the nearly mythical one-of-a-kind discoveries tied to exceptional historical significance or unique minting circumstances, where values have reached astonishing figures near $120,000 during major private transactions and high-profile auctions. For many people, those numbers feel almost impossible to connect with a simple 5-cent coin dated 1946. Careful examination is essential because valuable 1946 Jefferson Nickels often reveal their importance through tiny physical clues rather than dramatic appearance alone. Experienced collectors begin by checking the weight of the coin because incorrect planchets or metal errors can produce subtle but important differences. The metal color should also be examined carefully, since unusual shades may indicate environmental exposure, chemical alteration, or in rare cases, an improper alloy mixture from the mint itself. Strike alignment deserves close attention because some 1946 nickels display rotated dies or partial design shifts caused during production. Rim expansion or uneven edges may point toward broad strikes or pressure-related minting abnormalities that advanced collectors actively seek. Letter doubling around Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself should always be inspected under magnification because genuine doubled features can significantly increase desirability when properly authenticated. Yet experts constantly warn collectors against impulsive selling because many coins mistaken for rare errors are actually damaged after leaving the mint. Professional grading and authentication remain the safest way to confirm whether a 1946 Jefferson nickel is genuinely valuable or simply an interesting curiosity. Somewhere tonight, another 1946 Jefferson nickel is probably sitting unnoticed in a junk drawer, buried inside loose change, or resting in an old family collection while nobody around it understands the story hidden inside that worn piece of metal. That possibility is exactly what keeps collectors searching through bank rolls, estate sales, flea markets, and inherited boxes year after year, because the next extraordinary discovery could emerge from the most ordinary place imaginable. A single overlooked 1946 nickel with the right combination of preservation, strike quality, mint era, or historical significance could instantly transform from forgotten pocket change into the kind of life-changing discovery that collectors dream about for decades. Many people spend rare coins without ever examining them closely, unaware that certain details invisible at first glance can completely alter the coin's importance and market value. And somewhere beyond the world of the 1946 Jefferson nickel, another American coin with an even stranger post-war mystery is still waiting to surface. A coin whose hidden story has already stunned experts who thought they had seen every possible rarity before. Next coin. The 1949 Jefferson nickel, which is a collectible American coin, entered circulation during a period when the United States was rapidly transforming after the turbulence of the 1940s. Yet almost nobody handling these nickels at the time imagined that certain examples from 1949 would eventually become objects of intense fascination among collectors. On the surface, the 1949 Jefferson nickel appears modest and familiar, featuring Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the front and Monticello on the reverse. But hidden within this seemingly ordinary design is a surprisingly complex story tied to changing mint operations, post-war economic pressure, and subtle production inconsistencies that created rare and valuable survivors. Unlike earlier wartime nickels, the 1949 issue returned fully to normal peacetime production, yet the mint still faced enormous demand for circulating coinage as American commerce expanded rapidly during the late 1940s. Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco all contributed to the year's production, but differences in strike quality, die preparation, and long-term survival rates gave the 1949 Jefferson nickel a personality entirely its own. Today, collectors search for this date not because every example is rare, but because a tiny percentage display characteristics so unusual that they completely change the coin's importance and market value. The appearance of a well-preserved 1949 Jefferson nickel can be unexpectedly dramatic when viewed under proper lighting, especially since many surviving examples spent decades hidden away in old collections or forgotten storage containers. Some 1949 nickels display bright silver surfaces with sharp reflective luster, while others reveal deep olive gray toning, soft gold highlights, or unusual blue and violet coloration caused by agging inside paper rolls and vintage coin albums. Collectors often become obsessed with the details around Jefferson's profile because high-quality 1949 strikes can show remarkable precision in the hair texture, jawline, and coat detail that heavily circulated examples lost long ago. The reverse side attracts even greater attention because the architectural detail on Monticello can vary dramatically from coin to coin depending on strike pressure and die condition. Specialists focus intensely on the staircase beneath the building because sharply defined full steps examples from 1949 are significantly more elusive than many people realize. Weak strikes frequently blurred those delicate lines together, meaning a fully detailed 1949 Jefferson nickel immediately stands apart from the majority of surviving pieces. Even the shape of the rim, the spacing of letters, and the alignment between the front and back designs may hint that a coin deserves much closer examination. The production history surrounding the 1949 Jefferson nickel contains several unusual details that continue to fuel collector curiosity decades later. Philadelphia struck the largest quantity without a mint mark, while Denver and San Francisco released smaller numbers marked with D and S mint marks beside Monticello. Despite those large production totals, surprisingly few high-grade examples survived because most 1949 nickels entered circulation almost immediately and remained in heavy use for years. During the minting process, worn dies and mechanical adjustments occasionally created fascinating abnormalities that escaped into circulation unnoticed. Some 1949 Jefferson nickels display visible die cracks stretching through parts of the design, while others reveal doubled lettering or partially shifted impressions caused by die movement during striking. Certain examples exhibit clipped planchets, broad strike effects, or off-center strikes that dramatically alter the coin's appearance and instantly attract collector attention. There are also reports of unusual die polishing marks on some 1949 nickels that create reflective patterns almost resembling fine scratches under magnification, adding another layer of mystery for specialists trying to classify rare varieties from this year. For many collectors, the emotional connection to the 1949 Jefferson nickel comes from the realization that such an ordinary-looking object quietly traveled through one of America's most optimistic periods without anyone recognizing its future importance. A single 1949 nickel may have passed through movie theaters, soda fountains, corner stores, or train stations during a time when the country was entering a completely new era of prosperity and technological growth. That small coin may have been carried by factory workers, students, traveling salesmen, or families rebuilding their lives after years shaped by war and uncertainty. Today, when someone discovers a sharply preserved 1949 Jefferson nickel hidden inside a drawer, inherited collection, or old change jar, the moment often feels strangely personal because the coin becomes more than just currency. It transforms into a surviving artifact from another generation, a silent witness to thousands of forgotten transactions and everyday moments. Stories continue circulating through the coin community about people unknowingly spending rare 1949 nickels decades ago because they never stopped to examine subtle details that later proved extraordinarily important. The market for rare 1949 Jefferson nickels has produced surprisingly strong documented auction and collector sale results, especially for examples with unusual mint characteristics or exceptional preservation. Smaller errors and better-than-average survivors from 1949 have reportedly sold within a range of approximately $3,000 to $10,000 depending on eye appeal, strike sharpness, and authentication. Certain unusual finds featuring visible die irregularities, striking anomalies, or attractive toning combinations have approached $18,000 when advanced collectors competed for ownership. High-grade 1949 Jefferson nickels certified with exceptional surfaces and strong full steps detail have reportedly climbed toward $28,000 in specialized sales, where condition rarity became the deciding factor. These numbers are never guarantees because coin markets shift constantly with collector demand and overall economic conditions, but the existence of such documented sales continues fueling interest in a coin that most people still treat as ordinary pocket change. For some collectors, the realization that an overlooked nickel could represent a sudden financial opportunity creates the same emotional rush as discovering hidden treasure in plain sight. The most dramatic stories connected to the 1949 Jefferson Nickel involve extreme minting abnormalities and exceptionally preserved examples that transformed into legendary collector pieces. Strong-era coins from 1949 featuring major off-center strikes, dramatic doubling, or severe die problems have reportedly reached around $45.00 during competitive auctions involving specialized Jefferson Nickel collectors. Certain mint-state-era examples with extraordinary visual appeal and highly unusual production flaws have climbed towards $65,000 after professional grading confirmed their rarity and authenticity. Even more astonishing are documented cases involving rare misstrikes from 1949, because some examples displaying dramatic alignment failures or striking mistakes reportedly approached $95,000 in elite collector markets. At the very highest level are the extraordinary or potentially unique discoveries tied to exceptional preservation, unusual die combinations, or historically important minting circumstances, where values have approached an astonishing $110,000 during private collector transactions and high-profile sales. For many people, those numbers feel impossible to associate with a 5-cent coin, which is exactly why rare Jefferson Nickels continue capturing public imagination generation after generation. Careful examination remains absolutely essential because many valuable 1949 Jefferson Nickels reveal their importance only through subtle physical details invisible to casual observers. Experienced collectors begin by checking the coin's weight, because abnormal weight can indicate incorrect planchets, altered metal composition, or rare production mistakes. The metal surface itself deserves close inspection since unusual coloration may suggest environmental exposure, chemical damage, or in rare situations, an improper alloy mixture created during minting. Strike quality and alignment should always be evaluated carefully because some 1949 nickels display rotated dies or partial design shifts caused during the striking process. Rim expansion or uneven edges can point toward broad strikes or pressure abnormalities that significantly increase collector interest when authenticated correctly. Letter doubling around Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date itself should also be examined under magnification, because genuine doubling can dramatically increase value in the eyes of specialists. Yet experts consistently warn against impulsive selling or assumptions because countless damaged coins are mistaken for rare errors every year. Professional authentication and grading remain the safest way to determine whether a 1949 Jefferson Nickel is truly extraordinary or simply an interesting survivor from another era. Right now, another forgotten 1949 Jefferson Nickel is probably hiding in a coffee can, buried inside loose household change, or resting unnoticed within an inherited collection while nobody around it realizes what may be sitting quietly in front of them. That possibility is what keeps collectors searching endlessly through bank rolls, flea markets, estate sales, and family storage boxes, because the next remarkable discovery could appear almost anywhere without warning. A single overlooked 1949 nickel with the right combination of strike quality, preservation, mint era, or unusual tunning could instantly transform from ordinary currency into a life-changing collector discovery that alters someone's understanding of coin collecting forever. Many rare coins have already disappeared back into circulation simply because people failed to recognize small details before spending them without a second thought. Somewhere beyond the world of the 1949 Jefferson Nickel, another seemingly common American coin is still waiting to shock collectors with an even stranger hidden story. one that experts believed impossible until the evidence finally surfaced.